Lake Convention Visitors Bureau, and the gentleman that works there, the representative, you know, white bread, you know, very, very Utah. We asked a straightforward question. Is it possible to have an event of this magnitude, a bunch of Hispanic businesses coming to Salt Lake City? And then he thought for a second. He was like, absolutely, 100%. And we will support you throughout the whole process. So that was one of the initial meetings. And Don Salazar has been a great champion of our business community, of our chamber. And he single-handedly has made this process possible. So let's give him a round of applause. Obviously, all the work that is done to have an event of this magnitude in Salt Lake, you know, had the full support of the USHCC Board of Directors. Mark, thank you so much for considering us to be a player in our country. A nice little. So, Mr. President, you were very presidential. We got him in a limo. He comes in, gives a fantastic, I believe, 15, 20-minute speech. He's done. Back to the limo. We grabbed him by the arm. We took him back to a limo, back to the airport, on to Houston. Not only that, I mean, Mr. Mark Rodriguez, the next year, we came in. And this is when we were already going with our convention buzz that we might be considered to be one of the cities, you know, that we're being considered. And Mr. Rodriguez came in and you absolutely killed it.
Sin limo.
In our state. So we matter as a community, and we're so excited. So I want to thank, again, the United States Hispanic Chamber of Commerce for selecting Utah as the city to host this convention. Welcome everyone. And before I finish, I just want to let you know that we created a magazine to tell you what Utah's all about. We're not selling anything. We're not trying to get ad revenue. It's a gift to all of you, okay? So you know what we're about, how our community is so diverse, and everything that's Utah, it's right here. So I brought enough copies for everyone, and we're going to be distributing this throughout the convention. Javier, thank you so much for everything. Thank you, Mark, Don, thank you so much. Thank you.
It goes a little farther than that. I think it's been 9 years since we made our first initial bid to get the Chamber National Convention here. And I'm talking about from the governor who has been kind enough to meet personally with Mark, and he came last January and met with our board. You know, it doesn't get any better than that. And it goes on down from there, from local business leaders, from the Scott Andersons to the Greg Weingartners to the Lou Kramers of our community, and Francisco, and you know, which I think is one of the most vibrant chambers in the country, the Utah Hispanic Chamber of Commerce.
The listening and the learning comes from a foundation of staff and comes from a lot of hard work and a lot of maturity. And I didn't quite get there, but I tried to listen as much as possible. And those characteristics of your board, the United States Hispanic Chamber of Commerce boards, sets the foundation to set policy, make sure this guy is hired or fired, whether he likes it or not. That's our role, and to set the financials. Those three responsibilities we were direct with and focused with for at least 2 years on the foundation that our Chair Emeritus, Nina Vaca, provided for us. The listening and the learning more than leading. At this time, your President CEO, Javier Palomares.
It's okay.
This is good.
Of what we've been involved in since we last saw you. We saw you in late
September last year, and we're just going to give you a snippet of what's been going on. This is just about a third of what we've been engaged in. Before I begin, I want to clarify a couple of things, and I want to kind of, I've had a front row seat of this thing, and it's amazing what has happened. But I remember our board meeting before the Miami convention. It was in July. We had to borrow an office of one of the business owners. He had turned the air conditioning off on the weekends to save money. We had finger sandwiches. We could only afford Coke, and we had kind of lukewarm Coke, but thanks to Coca-Cola. Fast forward to our last board meeting was in this room. And Don was right. That is Murano glass, but that's insured for $4 million. It's over 100 years old. This room was designed after a castle in Belgium, in one of the rooms that was a library in that castle. This room was designed after that. That is insured for $1 million, and it was designed, the original design was by Dr. Seuss, and that's also Murano glass. What you're going to see here is just a quick illustration of what we're attempting to do to represent you, most of you, because some of you don't want to be represented by us. Some of you would rather do your own thing, and that's fine. But I hope that most of you will recognize what we're attempting to do. So, a year ago, we introduced Goldman Sachs, as Francisco mentioned, here in Salt Lake City. Later that month, we were out in New York doing a Hispanic Heritage Month symposium where we were able to connect some of our business owners with New York life. There's a gentleman that I think will be with us named Hector Vilchis. If you meet him, por favor, give him thanks, because he is a one-man show over at New York Life, and he is doing everything he can to allow our business owners to play part in his organization. Later that month, I remember this day because it was my birthday. We spent the day at the National Press Club calling for the end of the sequester and calling for the government to move forward and Congress to act. Later that afternoon, later that evening, meetings with former Secretary of Defense Leon Panetta, also on the debt ceiling, and the Secretary and myself did a press conference the following day to call for Congress to move. It's important that America recognizes that our concerns are not only about immigration. We care about the debt ceiling also. We're getting impacted more than the guy, I don't deserve the thanks. Leon Panetta deserves the thanks because he called us and said, Javier, come and meet with me and we'll both talk at the National Press Club. Imagine what it takes for a guy that's been at that pinnacle to recognize the importance of the Hispanic community, say, you need to be beside me. That's where we need to be. Some people want to talk about bylaws. Do you want to talk about bylaws? Or do you want me talking with Leon Panetta about the debt ceiling? Which one would you prefer I be doing? I'm sorry, which one? That's what I thought. That's what I thought. So here we are at the Toyota. Toyota is a great corporation. They have helped us quite a bit. They're doing a lot of work with Hispanic businesses. They are moving their new North American headquarters from Torrance, California to Plano, Texas. There is a great opportunity in Texas for Latino-owned firms to play a part there. I am in very close contact with the people at Toyota. They're doing everything they can to help. But I will be calling on some of you, and we're going to announce, I believe later tomorrow, about an amazing opportunity that Toyota has made available to a Latina woman for the first time in Toyota's history. Our friends from El Paso, San Antonio, and Austin are here. This is an historic first. I want you to please do me a favor and pay attention to all of the historic firsts that you're going to be witnessing over the next couple of days. If you blink, you'll miss them. But you're going to see a history-making event after another. Leon Panetta, the press club, the debt ceiling, something happening with Toyota. The first Hispanic Attorney General in the history of this state will be joining us. He's in that office because our association helped him get in that office. That's history. We will have only the second Latino Secretary of HUD in the country's 234-year history will be joining us. The first woman to ever serve as SBA administrator after the post has been elevated to a direct report to the President of the United States will be joining us. The most powerful woman in American politics will be joining us, second in succession to the President. There's going to be one after another historic piece of something happening, and I hope that you guys will pay attention and recognize when you walk away that this is all for you and because of you. This wouldn't be happening if you weren't doing what you're doing. America is waking up, and you're the alarm clock. Yes. And I want you to kind of keep that in mind. For the first time ever, the Reverend, a Hispanic was allowed to join the Reverend on the stage. Reverend Jackson, and the woman to our right is a woman named Josette Wright from the NMSDC. The African American community, headed up by Josette Wright, has been a phenomenal partner to the USHCC. When Arizona did what they did 8 years ago, about 5 years ago, Josette Wright called me and she said, if you don't go to Arizona, I don't go to Arizona. It cost us a fortune, but we boycotted Arizona and both of us pulled our convention from Phoenix, Arizona because of what they did. That's Josette Wright. The short little genius on the right-hand side with the little librarian glasses. If you see her, pat her on the back and thank her because she stuck with our community when the chips were down. That's the kind of leadership that Josette Wright represents. On the far right, we went to Mexico City for the second time at the request of the government, and we represented the Ernst & Young Global Growth Summit in Mexico City. We've also been to Spain, we've been to London, we've been to Israel, we've been to Colombia, and I believe we're going to Argentina, but we're thinking about that. The message has always been, if you took the Latino community in America and you created a country, we would be a bigger country, a stronger country, a wealthier country, and more educated country than Mexico, than Spain, than Argentina, than Brazil, than any Latin American country on the globe. We are the power of the Hispanic market in the United States. And my message to them is, we need to work with you. Porque qué pena if you're doing business in the United States and you're not working with us. And so we're looking to break through that as best we can. The swearing in of Maria Contreras Sweet, we worked very hard to put this woman in this role. You should know, another historic first, by the way, not only the first Latina to be in that role after it was elevated to a secretary position. She's actually the secretary. She's referred to as administrator, but she reports directly to the President of the United States. So when she goes to like her staff meetings, the guy at the end of the table is the President of the United States. You should know that we lobbied very hard on her behalf, and the results, the first time in history, no, I don't know if it's the first time in history, it's the first time in the President Obama's administration that they had had an absolutely uncontested nomination. Nobody contested her. She was 100% approved. First time ever in his administration. Nomination and approval in his administration. He saw firsthand the power of this community when we get behind a leader, and he called and said, I can't believe it, you guys broke a record. It happened in record time, and there wasn't one dissenting vote on that woman. Why? No porque es Latina, because she was the best American candidate for that job.
There you go.
And we're all going to get to hear from her later on. Some School of International Affairs, I don't know how the hell I got on that panel, but the idea now for us, at the advice of many people that are around us, is that we start talking to young people. Not just all of us who are here now, but going back 10, 15 years, talking to the next wave of leadership. And by the way, their view is incredibly different. The next wave is going to freak us all out. I was really busy. I had time to have a baby while I was gone. This is the Western Republican Conference, how that picture ended up there. But I was asked to come out here and speak to all the leadership of the Republican Party a few months ago. On the upper right-hand side is Griselda here. Griselda Aldrete is a phenomenal young woman from Milwaukee. If you have a chance, please go say hello to her. I had a blast going out and speaking at their event. Lower right-hand side, Comcast Diversity Council. Every week, there are at least 4 trips. And every week, we're in the middle of something. But the one constant is that we're always talking about the collaborative spirit and the power of our community and how we're here to work together in harmony, collaborating, moving our country forward, and recognizing that America sees the rest of our community through our actions. As we go, the Hispanic community goes. If all we can do is argue with each other, Frank, then that's what America sees.
Right.
But if we collaborate with each other, Yuri, then that's what America sees. It's y'all's choice. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. Because people like Azucena and Cindy will kick my butt if I don't, first of all. But more importantly, because people like Mark y el Doctor need me to continue to do that. It's important that they recognize the power of the Hispanic community. It's important that in the heart of Texas, they recognize that we matter. We may not have it yet. We're going to get there real quick with people like Mark at the helm. And so I want you to kind of look at all this stuff, not just because of the event, but the constant messaging of the fact that we're making something positive happen in our country, and we're taking control of our destiny. So obviously, Julian Castro on the upper left hand. If you haven't met him, please try to make a chance to at least come shake his hand. At the ripe old age of 39. Stanford undergrad, I believe, and a Harvard MBA and a Harvard law degree. I mean, imagine that. 39 years old. His birthday was last week. We were texting him back and forth. I call him kid, and he calls me sir. I don't know how that happened, but it's all completely backward. First large public engagement. He's coming all the way from Washington. He will speak here, stay for one event, and then fly right back. Everybody knows that everybody's talking about Julian Castro. So for him to come back to his community is illustrative of the kind of man that Julian Castro is. You know how many people have asked him to come talk? They've had over 430 requests. He chose one. This one. He's coming back to his community. And I hope you guys, when he takes that stage, frankly, because this guy called him, when he takes that stage, I hope every one of you jumps out of your heels and jumps out of your seats and gives him a nice welcome, Latino welcome, the kind that he deserves for coming out and dealing with us first. Joe Biden, the swearing in, was an historic event. Again, I was talking to a young New York Times columnist, and she said, well, you know, he's actually the second Latino to ever be HUD secretary. And I said, I'm sorry, young lady, how long has this country been together? Like 230-something years? So we're averaging like every 116 years we get one. That's historic. I don't know what you're talking about, young lady, but to me, that's pretty historic. Lower left-hand corner.
It's true.
Again, along the lines of historic firsts.
Sad.
I had the privilege of doing the commencement speech and receiving, of all things, an honorary doctorate. I can't believe that happened. And I sent a big, huge poster to Mark. And now he has to call me doctor because I have to call him Mr. Chairman. So it takes us like 5 minutes to say good morning, Mr. Doctor. And I have the daughters call me Dr. Palomar now. I can't. But what's really important here is that this was the first time in the school's 173-year history that a Latino had been allowed to do a commencement speech. Francisco, Don, Robert Rendon, and people like that, agitating, articulating, advocating here in Salt Lake. That never would have happened. And I thought, well, you know, that's cool, you know, 173 years. All right, let's go check it out. So I come in, they give me last year's commencement speech brochure. And of course, I go to look and see who the commencement speaker was last year, because I'm thinking, I gotta be better than that person, right? It was Robert Redford. By the way, I
You looked like it.
I think I did better. But anyway, first time in history. hope that you guys recognize, we are changing history. You are changing history. Dealing with Congress and Senate, talking about corporate diversity. Lower left-hand corner, Politico. The political panel was widely covered. It was Maria Contreras Sweet's first time coming out. If you get a chance to see that video, this woman's amazing. Within 90 days, she had an amazing plan, and they are working overtime. By the way, people don't realize that I found a common thread among the real leaders in our community. I can say this about Don, I can say this about Mark, I can say this about Nina Vaca, I know this about Carmen, I can say this about Maria Contreras Sweet. To a person, they're constantly looking for some other Latino to help. Sometimes me va bien, sometimes no me va tan bien. The first thing Maria did, she took this brilliant young woman that worked for me, named Valentina, and drafted her and put her on a national level, and now Valentina Pereira is managing all media for the Small Business Administration. First time in history, is Latina, and she's under the age of, I don't know how old she is, but she's 5? Realize this is happening every day. And that same common thread of people like Maria, like Mark, like Don, like Nina, every day I hear about something they're doing for someone else. I spent an evening yesterday with Carmen, and she's got 4 young women that she's coaching on her own time. That's the power of our community. We have learned a long time ago that if we don't help each other, nobody's going to help us. But fortunately, today, we have people like Maria who can call the governor in Maryland and say, I want this young dreamer from Venezuela. Stand up, young man. I want this young dreamer right here from Venezuela to join me. And guess what the governor does? Who's seated right there? That's the power of our community. And I am one tiny little piece, 1/1,000,000th of the piece. It's really these people who never get up and tell you about it. But it's my job to remind you about it. It's happening every day. We joined the National 4-H Club this year. As you know, every year we find it's doing something useful for our community. We've done this with the Boys and Girls Club. We've done this with the Girls Club, the Boy Scouts. This year's the National 4-H Club. The largest youth organization in the world, by the way. By way of example, the Girl Scouts have, I believe, like 3 million young ladies joined. The Boy Scouts have like 4. They have 12 million all over the world. The fastest growing segment, Latin America. Their president will be joining us for one of our events. Just real quickly, some media highlights. Again, in the same tone of trying to stay at the top of the political and national narrative. We've done stuff with ABC News talking with President Bush, a known Republican, about the power and influence of America's immigrant community. Not from a civil rights perspective, it's all about economics. I think most of you have seen the book that we co-authored with the George W. Bush Institute.
Yeah.
Hot off the presses. They called us, I believe, last Wednesday. They want to do a second edition. They've been approached by about 18 other nonprofit organizations, all of them, none of them Hispanic. And they said, no thank you, 18 times. They came back to us and they said, the second edition, expanded edition, will be with the USHCC. How are we doing? Can you characterize and can you catalog the growth of the organization? And we use a company called Meltwater. Meltwater is a media evaluation firm. It's a software company. And just off the top of my head, their clients include Nike, Mercedes-Benz, Campbell Soup, Exxon, and other major corporations. We pay Meltwater, like everybody does, because it's important that we be able to tell you, hey, we're making a mark. We're actually moving the needle. These are the media impressions. I'm sorry, this is the earned media. So when we started in 2010 on the lower left-hand corner, we were at about $900,000 worth of value. Not that we paid it, but that's the kind of coverage, if I had to pay it, that's what it would cost me.
Define earned media.
Earned media, unpaid earned media, is coverage that you get that you didn't have to pay for. So there are 2 factors to earned media. Did you get coverage, And was it positive coverage? Because you want coverage. The perfect combination is a lot of coverage and it's all positive. You want a lot of positive.
Right.
You can see here the trend. These are numbers that are audited by our organization. By our board approves them and sees them in our auditing. You can see the growth. Last year, at the end of the year, we tallied up all of the media impressions and we gave it the evaluation and gave it a dollar value. Meltwater did. And the dollar value was $90,393,204. Second part of the equation, okay, great. A lot of people are hearing about you. That's great, Javier. But what kind of media? Do they like what they're hearing? Through our friends at Johnson & Johnson, I don't think Ruben is here. Ruben Taborda, our finance chair, a wonderful partner of the organization, a great counselor of mine personally. Johnson & Johnson does this, and they evaluate the favorability of the Johnson & Johnson brand. They have over 120 brands. And they went ahead and threw ours in, porque no les cuesta mucho. And so here's the sentiment. 11%, 87%, and 20%. When you're looking at media, you take the top two echelons, the top two matrices, the 87 and the 11, and that's considered positive. It's not negative. And our positive rating, now I worked in corporate America for 20 years, and I was in marketing, sales, and advertising. And I prayed for the day when my company's rating was 85%. Our favorability rating is 98%. So not only is the country hearing about us, but what they hear and what they believe after they read it is 98% of the time favorable. It's about damn time that we change the narrative in this country and we change the dialogue and we redefined our community and put the positive foot forward. This is proof positive that we're doing exactly that. One of the things that we're doing is working very closely in local communities, as many have. This isn't like a revelation that came to us. Many have recognized this, but we've just followed suit. That in local communities, it's really the mayor that drives business. It's really the mayor that's making things happen. The guy who taught me that was the guy on the left. And him and Mark kind of talked to me about, wait a minute, there's all the stuff that happens on the federal level, but there's this whole ecosystem in this city called San Antonio. And the king of San Antonio is the mayor. And the ability for us to begin to really drive contracting and relationship building, whether it's in San Antonio, Los Angeles, or Miami, or Austin, is to work with the local mayor and ensure that that mayor knows who we are, knows what we care about, knows who our business owners are, knows what we're doing, knows that we vote, knows that we have the money to support. And so we've started a strategy, and it's called Celebrating America's Business Future. We give an award to mayors that we believe really understand the Latino community and doing everything they can to help us grow our businesses. And these are the first three. Look for us to do more along those lines, because we believe that as a local chamber leader, if you don't have your governor behind you and you don't have your mayor behind you, good luck. Because that's just the way it is. So my job is to come in and say, you're not just talking to Azucena in Fort Worth. She's one of 200 of us. And she represents maybe 5,000 businesses out of 3.4 million businesses. So if you support her, you support me. You take her off, you take me off. That makes a difference, and these guys are paying attention. So look for us to do more and more of that as we move forward. Work at the really local community level. And we'll reach out to the chamber leaders as I have with Mark, as I have with Omar. And actually Omar was brilliant in helping me through this, and that's how we ended up in Chicago with Mayor Emanuel, who now is, he's like the text buddy. We got like a bromance going. So we're taking funding, and through the generosity, and then I'm just using a Wells Fargo illustratively, it's happening obviously to Visa. How many of y'all, by show of hands, how many of you received a Visa check from me in the last 24 months? Raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah. I think we sent out, how much like $800,000 worth of funding that went out to local chambers. Now, every Saturday morning, Mark and I, we have a few traditions, some I can share. One of them was that every Saturday morning, I call them first thing in the morning, and we talk about who's getting a check today, and I would write a personal check and say, I want to thank you for being part of the visa acceptance program. I think in San Antonio, you guys got $21,000 in San Antonio, right? And 19,000. I love you as much as San Antonio, but that day. So the idea is to take the funding and try to funnel it as quickly as we can to you, staff. Now, understand, my staff is 9 people.
That's wrong.
9 people. So our job is to take as much of the funding as we can, con permiso, because we have to get approval from the corporate friend, and funnel it down to the local chambers. We've done that in Philly, we've done that in Chicago, we've done that in Maryland, we've done that in Austin, we've done that in Fort Worth, we've done that in El Paso, and all over. See, we will be doing more of that as much as we can. It is not our decision. This money is given to us by a corporation, and we have to get their permission. Message is, if you see Visa people or Wells Fargo people, give them a big fat hug and a big fat kiss, because they approve us doing that, and funding goes to you. This is an example of something we did just last year for the first time. Where the Houston Hispanic Chamber, the Chamber of Metro Orlando, and Sacramento each got a $20,000. That's why they're smiling that big. The second tier, smaller chambers, got $10,000 fund, and that was Utah Hispanic Chamber, Fort Worth, North Carolina, and network, entrepreneurial network of Wisconsin. So the idea is to take the money and give it directly to our members so that they can go do what they need to do. I have enough stuff going on in my life. I don't need to figure out what your priorities are. What I need to figure out is to give you the money so you can execute your priorities. And that's what that was. So if you see Wells Fargo, this company continues to believe in us. And man, they write the check. They write the check. At the end of the day, good voice, he's got 5 women around him 24/7. Me, because I've been married to a woman for 32 years and she won't let me do it. And both of us, because we don't need a vaca y no nos queda remedio. I mean, that just is no way out. We've created the At the Table initiative, led by 2 brilliant young women on our own team, who most of you know. Eliza, seated right there in the corner. Eliza, please stand up, or are you standing? Michelle Desengani, who's a brand new member of the team. That's great. We need to do that. You help a woman out. You help a family. You help a community. You help a neighborhood.
Right.
You help a town.
Right.
Hell, you help a country.
Yeah.
So we're going to do everything we can, at least while I'm in this role, to continue to push on something that grabs the entrepreneurial power of the Latinas within us and around us, and harnesses that so that we can continue to build on this momentum that Hispanic women have in our community.
Let me give you an example of good stuff that happens. I make every Chamber Training Institute dinner. Try and make as many workshops as I can. As your chairman, I don't need the microphone. I just show up to say thank you. Last night, there were no chairs left for the chairman of the USHCC. What a great problem to have. That's right. I'll be proud today. I'll be proud at the gala. But last night I was proud because 2 other board members and myself, there were no chairs available. What a good problem to have. Thank you.
We've solicited the help of some amazing organizations, obviously the Kauffman Foundation, the largest and most influential foundation, I think in the world, certainly in America in terms of entrepreneurialism, Google, Facebook, Cosmo Latina, Doral Bank, etc. The idea being that we always talk about it. It's always in my elevator speech that Latino-owned businesses are going at a rate of 3 to 1 compared to the general market. That's true. Our Department of Commerce will back me up on that all day long. But if you took Latinas out and you studied them by themselves and compared their growth to the general market, that growth rate jumps to 5 to 1. So whether we want to admit it or not, if we are the spear, the point of the spear are not the guys, it's the women that are at the point of our spear. when we throw an event about women, the most powerful elected official, female official in the history of America says, oh yeah, hell yeah, I'll go take that prize. I'll fly out with all my security detail and I'll accept that award because they recognize the power of our women. By the way, she won't tell you, but the first woman to ever join our board that has a company that does more than $1 billion worth of revenue is Carmen Castillo. She'll never tell you that. That's the largest Hispanic-owned business in the history of the United States. And she woke up, flew in from God knows where, and is seated front row. So if you're not getting it yet, man, you really please need to stop and thank people like Carmen. Because let me tell you, she was telling about her calendar last week, and it was King this, and Emir that, and Princess that, and Duke this, and Prime Minister this. And last night she was with poor Javier Palomares down at a local bistro having a so-so dinner. On them, again, the amazing work that's being done by Eliza and Michelle, a two-woman team that is just taking the country by storm. BizFest is probably one of the most heartwarming things we do. You should know, BizFest doesn't make us money. BizFest costs me money. And every year, just like you, we have bills to pay. We have to decide, what are we going to do this year? What are we going to leave behind? We'll never leave BizFest behind, because if we do that, we're basically saying we're leaving our kids behind. So if there is a BizFest in your city, please make the time to stop in, say hello, give those children a few words of wisdom. You would be amazed at how impactful that is to those kids. Please. And by the way, the last one we had, or that I was able to go to, Azucena hosted this in Fort Worth. It was amazing. It was so touching. Thank you for your help on that, Azucena, como siempre. Legislative Summit, it's really important to keep score. And one of the things that's indicative of how well we're doing is how we attract the political leadership of this country. And it's important that we attract on both ends of the spectrum, right? You don't just want to attract Democrats or just Republicans. So we keep score. When we had our last legislative summit, many of you were there, we had 62 members of Congress, 30 Republicans and 32 Democrats. That's pretty well, I think, balanced. We also had Paul Ryan, on the lips of everybody as a potential presidential candidate. We had the leader of the Republican National Convention, who told me I'm running out of time. We had Governor O'Malley, who, if I have anything to do with it, will run for president. We had Democratic leader Nancy Pelosi, and we had an amazing, I think, delivery of an unscripted speech by Joe Biden, which I will never forget. That was an amazing speech. So it really speaks to the breadth of the reach of the association, and for us it's really about them understanding. There was 15 of you that were allowed to meet privately with Joe Biden. There will be 12 of you that are allowed to meet privately with Nancy Pelosi, so that she hears from you, not from me, what's important, and how we're working together to move things forward. So our job is to make sure that they hear directly from the people who are creating the jobs, paying the taxes, moving the innovation, et cetera, et cetera. Hill Day, we spend a lot of time on the Hill, obviously making sure that they hear our concerns, usually around business. A total of 57 meetings were scheduled, and you can see the numbers here. I think it's fairly impressive. John Cornyn pulled us aside later and said that this was the most effective body that he had seen in his 19 years, or his 19 years at it. And he said, Javier, you wowed everybody. He said it was amazing. He said we've never seen anything like it. Everybody's talking about it. John McCain, obviously a decorated war hero, joined us. We did something different last year, and look for us to continue to do that. And that's really working with journalists and ensuring that the people who tell the story, the historians, the guys who get in front of the mic and tell CNN or ABC or Politico, or in this case, this week, the Atlantic magazine, what they saw with their own eyes. And so you've got Jim Avila there from ABC News, a senior correspondent for ABC News, and all these other players from Politico and Huffington Post. The idea is I can tell you something over the phone, where I can bring you and you can see my constituency, and it makes a huge difference. And they're all covering this now. So much so that Steve Clemens, the senior editor of the Atlantic magazine, will be hosting voluntarily on his time the CEO panel series. Imagine that. I would doubt it if the Atlantic magazine writes something about what they saw here. Here's what you should expect. Obviously, Chamber Training Institute, thank you all for participating. As I told you yesterday, it's the heart of what we do. You, or at least the ones of you who work with us, are the power behind this organization. We cease to exist if you don't participate. And our job, my personal job, is to make sure that I represent the interests of the majority of you. There's always going to be one, or maybe two, or maybe three that don't agree. You know what? That's the beauty of America. You don't agree? It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. But I hope that 80, 90, 95% of you agree. And you do see what we're doing, and it does make a difference to you, and you do feel just a little bit of pride in your heart that we're trying to do the right thing. And so our job is to make sure we keep you there, happy, and that you continue to inform our strategy as we move forward. Obviously, you're going to hear from these individuals I already mentioned, Maria Contreras Sweet and Nancy Pelosi on Monday at the luncheon. Monday, later on, the CEO panel series, we've got 3 CEOs. Joe Alvarado, if you don't know him, he is the world's best kept secret. This guy is a Latino CEO of a $7 billion company. That's big. And he's joining us. Commercial Metals Corporation out of Irving, Texas. He'll be with us. So the executive vice chairman and former CEO of Overstock.com, Jonathan Johnson, a Utah boy, will be with us. And Scott Anderson, the gentleman who paid for that documentary that hopefully we'll get a chance to see, will be with us as well. And I mentioned Steve Clemens, the editor-at-large of The Atlantic, will be moderating that CEO panel. I hope all of you can make it to that. It's really a premier event. These guys don't give away that kind of time. And they're donating that time for us to kind of hear from them. Followed by the $1 Million Breakfast on Tuesday morning. Kathleen Martinez, if you don't know her, she works for British Petroleum. BP is the #1 investor, period, in energy and energy infrastructure in the United States, $55 billion investment. And she is the point of their spear. Latina, as the day is long, from Houston, and she will be the corporate advocate of the year. Next year's convention will be in Houston, Texas, hosted by BP. So look forward to hearing more from her. American Airlines is Corporation of the Year this year. This is an amazing brand that continues to do everything they can to, not only in terms of procurement, but diversity all the way around. And so we've honored them among, I believe, 53 entrants. HBE Elite Luncheon. These are the superstars of our show during this event. Eligio Cedeno, if you don't know him, the quietest guy you'll ever meet. He literally is a living testament to will. I don't want to divulge the whole story. I believe there are 2 movies being written about, put together about him. He was incarcerated in his home country, made it to America. He owns a company called Veme, and is very dedicated to the idea that Hispanics should have wonderful, particularly our children, wonderful programming in bilingual approach. Veme and Eligio Cedeno, an amazing, amazing man, member of the USHCC. Obviously, Monica Lozano, also in the media, the first Latina ever to break through, sits on the board of Disney, the board of Bank of America. I mean, this woman's a rock star. Been at it for many, many years. And of course, our good friend, Governor Gary Herbert, who has welcomed everybody to the state. And then finally, the big show. The closing gala will be the Honorable Julian Castro. That's a wrap. That's what we've been doing all year. I hope that that meets with your approval.
And as y'all know, okay, you brought it. Some Latinos wear our hearts on our sleeves. I just decided to put it on my boot. Comments from the floor. I'm going to try and prioritize the hands that went up first.
Mark.
So we're going to start on this side first. Amiga.
Thank you. First of all, I want to thank you all, President and CEO, and thank you for the hard work. I'm very proud to be a member of the USHCC, and we always support the organization every time. Two things. Number one, I want to remind you that I'm one of the founders of the Toronto Chamber of Commerce, and Toronto had the Pan American Games next summer, and there's a lot of programming opportunities there for us to get involved. And the other thing is, as a Regional 5 member, I want to see how we can unite our meetings, that way we can give you our input.
Thank you.
I'm going to stand up. Your chair elect Ignacio Veloz is sitting right here. I want him to stand up and be sure that if you don't know him, let me tell you the good and the bad. For the next 48 hours, when you approach me with the ideas, I'm going to punt.
Thank you. I'm Carlos Solorzano. I'm the CEO of the Hispanic Chambers of Commerce of San Francisco.
Perfect
I
attendance.
do expect to see you more. And I think that you are doing an outstanding job and that you will not quit until you're ready.
Thank you.
Never.
Thank you.
But anyway, and thank you, Mark, and thank you, Ignacio. Welcome. And mainly, I want to let you know that we have an agreement to disagree sometimes, and that I believe in. I've been involved in the chamber since 1989. I've been around. My ex-wife, which is a good friend of one of the first 3 women, that was the first 3 Latinas on the board of directors. And you guys have moved tremendously, and you're doing an outstanding job. But we also need to remind sometimes that we need to get back to basics on the bylaws. You mentioned this is not a time. What we do and what I like to propose is that you give us procedures, because the only change that I can see myself that I'm interested in is on the right to elect the representative from our regions.
Yes.
That's about it, because we need to know who represents us. With all due respect, I think that you have an outstanding work, and I think that you are the utmost Latino that I can ever see. When I grow up, I want to be like you. But at the same time, we do need to have respect for the time and the way that we can express, and that's what we're doing very respectfully. And we have the right, as members, to expect at least the right to elect the representatives from our region. I'm in California. We have California, Nevada, and Hawaii. They have
Washington.
one chamber each, not in Region 1. We have those 3, those 2 have one chamber. We have over 65 active chambers, and we have over 98 Hispanic chambers. We want to work together. We are here because we believe in what you do. We believe in being part of the solution. So, which is respectfully, I request, this is not the time, let's go do it right now because we need to be positive, but we do need the procedures and how we can go back to elect our representatives.
You are a stockholder that's voicing an opinion.
Thank you.
I'm going to go Cindy, and then I'm going to go 3 hands, back, middle, front, over here in a
I'm
minute.
from the El Paso Hispanic Chamber. I
Yay,
wanna
El
thank
Paso.
you all for your leadership. It's been awesome. Appreciated. I know it's a lot of sweat equity and no return. But I have 2 critical things that we need USHCC to help us step up with. Where are we with immigration reform? Border community, El Paso, Texas, we're getting hammered on this border security and immigration. And I've got lots of stuff to share with you. Secondarily, if you could get to Mr. Castro, we need to talk to him about housing authorities all across the country. They are not, by law, have to deal at all with any of the state or local or federal contracting issues.
Advisory Committee. And I hope they don't mind, but I'm gonna call them out. Omar and I speak very, very regularly. Cindy and I on issues of federal contracting. Azucena's part of the team. Varsovia keeps a hard eyeball on me. That's where most of the work around women and women's entrepreneurship, that's where that council has come from. Mark is part of that advisory council. So we do have a council that advises me on a fairly regular basis. We can't have everybody because we can't, but I think they're fairly representative of different parts of the country, different sizes, men, women, etc. We're actually meeting with Catholic University of America in like 30 minutes. This part of this advisory group that helps me kind of formulate thinking and enforce our strategies as we move forward. So it's a very well-made point. It's a point that Varsovia and Omar have been harping on for some time, and we do speak very regularly. And we are, in fact, in the case of Comcast, in the case of Goldman Sachs, in the case of Wells Fargo, in the case of Visa and Wells Fargo, we're figuring out ways that our corporates can't kind of use that logic of, well, we're doing it at the national level, because the reality of it is most of these organizations have a regional, if not a local presence. And so we're driving those dialogues and those conversations, even if it means flying in on a Saturday night at midnight to meet with their executive vice president in Varsovia and myself and saying, hey, you need to help here. This is your hometown. And I think it is working, but it takes a lot of time. But that's a point very well made, and it is something that we are actually doing right now, just FYI.
Omar, you want to chime in?
Yeah, no, I appreciate the comments, because I think, one of the things that I get most value from coming to events like this is just really being able to connect with other chambers and other parts, because we have a lot to share. And we also have a lot to learn. We've done a lot, and we can share. And I know I'm sitting with Cindy from Albuquerque later on, folks from Michigan and different parts of the country, because we want to help, right? And the other point that I want to make in Varsovia, I hope you get this. What I appreciate, there's the media, and that all helps us. The check we'll keep taking, right? But all the good stuff that I think the USHCC, like if we had to value what that means for us economically because of the return that we get and the investments that we get, not the checks that you write, we'll take those, but other corporations see, right? And so if my corporate partners see the great stuff that the USHCC is doing, they want to invest in us too, because they know that we have that relationship. But on the women end, what I appreciate, and this is sort of a personal thing now, when I talk to Javier, he's challenging me always. What are you doing about women? What are you doing to bring women up? Who are the women on your team that you're bringing up, that you're mentoring? Who are you identifying? I drove out to Milwaukee to meet with Sylvia, because Javier's like, look, you need to sit down with her. So this is like private conversations, and I hope that it's okay to bring it up. But I appreciate that challenge, because we need to do it. And so, I think you guys are doing a great job. Keep it up, because your success and our success. And we're not going to stop asking for stuff, right? I'm going to keep asking, hey, I need this, I want this. But that's what this is about, right? We need to kick the ball forward.
I always worry about my job when Omar's in the room. Right behind you.
Judy has a comment here, and I'm going to come back over here in 1 second.
Good morning,
Judy?
everybody. Javier, Salazar, Amar, and Francisco, thank you for the native blue salad last night when you left. But I wanted to tell you, you did an outstanding job. You have been doing that. And I'm very appreciative of the training, of the Notre Dame training, because 7 of our board members here in attendance today can benefit from that and have been benefiting. So in the spirit of echoing other voices, we want to also, I want to highlight the fact that not because we're a Chamber of Commerce, we deserve to get corporate dollars. Not because we're a chamber. We need to excel, we need to show how good we are, we need to share best practices. A good way to do that for you to support us is highlighting our work through perhaps what you used to have, Chamber in the News. I don't remember that, but you were highlighting the work of local chambers throughout the country, so everybody else from your circulation list can see what we're doing. I think it's a good way to solve the problem. Yes, and that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy. Appreciate it. Back over here real quick. Y'all are going to get mad. I'm going to run on time. We're already over time, but that's okay. Go ahead.
So, good morning, my name is Angela Franco. I'm the president of the Hispanic Chamber in DC. And thank you all. I mean, you have been wonderful. I don't ask for much, but when I ask, you always have been there. There's only one request that is specifically for DC. Now that the chamber is in a much different place, is, for example, when you have the legislative conference, if we can make sure that we have the mayor of Washington, D.C., I mean, things like that, that the chamber can take a more active role. And I always feel I can help with our connections. I mean, the convention center is a great partner of ours, Destination DC, and I think we can bring added value, and at the same time, it would support greatly the work we do.
Excellent.
So.
Mark Madrid.
Mark Madrid, I'd just like to thank all of you. I'd like to thank the board and Javier for the transformation of my arriving from Houston to head the Greater Austin Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. And I just want to thank all my peers here in the room as well. You've been very supportive. It's hard to imagine that in 2007 I was shutting down a bank, and now we're in this position here. So thank you. I just want to thank everyone for your support. Be in the heart of
Poor Mark, he takes the president CEO job at the Austin Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. His first luncheon, he runs out of food. Gets killed, right? Because he ran out of food. Great problem to have. Last Saturday, sold out the Four Seasons ballroom, the largest ballroom Four Seasons could even accommodate. Had a bunch of mad people because he announced a sold out gala. So the lesson is, you know, pay early. Pay early. As you learned, the first thing he did is he put in, talk about blast emails, he put an email with a fundraiser thermometer stating to everybody, this is where we need to get. And I was proud when you hit that level weeks before the game. Thank you, Mark, I appreciate it. Yes, sir.
I'm Jorge Rivas, and many of you know me. I've been here for years. I'm the president of the Mid-Atlantic Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. Mr. Gomez, who's somewhere here, there he is. When I first met Javier Palomares, I told Mr. Gomez that he have led the selection of a great president. Year after year, I have said the same at every convention, and I really appreciate your leadership. Your leadership, also Mark Rodriguez, and Mr. Salazar, you have done a wonderful job, and so you, I'm sorry, I forgot your name. I haven't forgotten what you have done. I will have to tell you that this is an organization that is growing, but we still have problems that can be solved little by little. It cannot be just our face, this organization cannot be our face to America. Internally, we have to work together to make this organization more representative. And it doesn't mean that it's bad, it just can be better. And I hope the leadership of this organization don't take it as a criticism. But if we are going to call this a membership meeting, we should have an agenda. There should be a notification long before. Many people miss this. Many people miss this meeting because they didn't know there was going to be a meeting. They already have booked hotels and airplanes. You cannot change. It costs a fortune. My wife and I, it costs us over $2,000 to be here. And when you say 5,000 people here, that expenses of these 5,000 people is far more than we are spending on this convention. I can tell you. So the obligation that we have is to each one of us, which is a stakeholder in this organization, and we applaud your leadership, but we need to be mindful that this grassroots organization, the 200 chambers, deserve a little bit more attention. You take a lot of pride of having 9 staff members, and I have to give you tremendous credit because they're the best and the brightest America can offer. They come from the top universities. However, 9 and a quarter will buy just a Coca-Cola in terms of a national level. It's not enough staff. So I share all that with you, and I hope you take it in the mente.
That's another hand over here. Going. Gone. And I see, there's one in the back, I'm sorry. Yes, go first.
Yeah. And the leadership that they are showing today to the stakeholders that are here today is the leadership that I would like to have internally in our small chambers of commerce in terms of how to produce a report that is showing exactly what you just highlighted today, is the connections, relationships with the people. And
and to have a better image on what the Hispanics are all about in the economy of this country. So I encourage you and I applaud that opportunity, because definitely is what our strength is. We are, and actually outside this room, they see us as one of the values of this country, and we have internally, we know that the family piece that is very well by outside. So try to do that inside, and we are going to move forward with those connections and those relationships that you have.
Well said.
I'm with Martha Serna with the Puget Sound Latino Chamber of Commerce. Our current governor was elected because of the Latinos in our state. If it wasn't for the Latino vote, Governor Inslee would not be there right now. That is the power. I look around you, around me, and I see so many youthful faces. I see our history here. I see our future. I see our next presidents of our CEOs. I see our CEOs. I see our next elected officials, maybe our next Latina president, our first Latina president. And I want you all to remember that while you're here. You are the future of not only our country, but of our world. And you should all take that and wear it. You are all going to be who we are all going to be looking up to. And you should be proud of yourself, Senor, for that.
Yeah. I'm recognizing it, y'all are gonna get mad.
I'll be quick.
Go.
Just really quick, I'm representing New Mexico and Albuquerque, and I just want to thank the team here. And I want to thank Javier for the support that he's given our governor, Susana Martinez, the first Latina governor in the history of the union. So thank you, sir. Thank you for your leadership.
Thank y'all folks, I appreciate it very much. Important.
Hispanic Chamber getting better. That's why I'm here. That's why I brought 20 people. Sarasal, I promised you to bring the people, I brought them. You know, and they're here. And we're here and we're having an event on Monday. You know, this is for the chamber presidents, just to have a good time and acknowledge our new chairman that's coming in. But I want to work better with us. There was an event in New York. The local chambers wasn't invited. So, you know, I don't want to be the one to always be the one to say the bad. I can only speak about New York. And if we could work better in New York, I have a lot of corporations there. If we could deal with the issue, if Ignacio and Palomar, I could set up a meeting with Mayor Bill de Blasio. You know we have a challenge. They brought down percentage for Hispanics from 25% to 4% and gave white women 37%. Now other areas are looking to do the same thing. I need the U.S. Hispanic Chamber to help. I'm suing the city. I can't do it alone no more. You know, all my resources, instead of doing certification workshops, I'm spending money with lawyers. So if we could get more in New York, and you know, we have a trip that we're doing in February in Colombia. If we could get the U.S. Hispanic Chamber to support Raquel on that trip and the local chambers in New York, I would like that. And I want to work better with Palomar. I think Palomar is doing a great job. When people wanted to get rid of him in Miami, I came out, I own a business. I don't get paid for this. I flew down to support Nina, him. If it wasn't for Nina, New York wouldn't be in the level of having 26 chambers. So I do owe a lot to the U.S. Hispanic Chamber. Would I like to see better? Yes. And it shouldn't be like I'm trying to criticize the U.S. Hispanic Chamber. I just want to see better as a stakeholder. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
With the New York State Chamber of Commerce. I've been supporter of the Chamber for over 20-something years, both as a corporate and as a member. You know, the last event I was in, we sponsored the event for the Colombian Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. One of the things I realized is, you know, for some reason is that New York State Chamber.
Keep it down over here, please, fair. If you're going to exit, please exit quietly.
New York State Chambers, what happened is that we feel that we are being alienated. We don't seem to get the recognition of what we do. I think it's just a lack of communication. I think one of the things that should be done is that chambers, when they have a problem, they should discuss it among each other and solve the problems. I mean, they call us the pit bulls. Yeah, we are the pit bulls, but we are your pit bulls. We're out there fighting for what is right. So I think that, you know, in the future, what we should do is all the presidents, if they have a problem, they should be able to come to you and, you know, speak to be able to solve the problems and work together. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Francisco.